Hey guys, Fat Plox here, and today I'm going to be talking about if TF2 is actually dead or not. As a lot of people say it is when referring to TF2. TF2 in 2018.
Look at this nerd.
Omega LOL, which mostly is banter, but there are a decent amount of people who actually think the game is dead without giving it a second thought. So I want to take the next few minutes to explain why TF2 is not dead yet. Now, I will be using as much factual evidence as possible and to look through my own bias, as obviously I do content on TF2. If you disagree with anything I say, like always, feel free to comment down below, as I love to have a discussion. Now, in this discussion, I see people misuse the word dead all the time. They call games dead just because they're not in their prime or golden days. And so allow me to define what dead actually means. No longer alive. And so you wonder how people somehow misuse this word. So here's a few examples of when you would actually use the word dead to describe something. Now, if you think the overall definition of dead doesn't really work with games, then allow me to show you my definition. My definition of dead is when barely to no one is playing the game, and that the community surrounding the game is also very inactive. And if the queue times take a while for every region and server available on that game, it's safe to call it dead, or that the matchmaking just sucks. If there is an active community around a game, you cannot call it dead because there are still people talking and caring about it. So when people call TF2 dead, I can't help myself but disagree, because TF2 fits none of the criteria of what I've just mentioned. And allow me to elaborate more on why TF2 doesn't fit this criteria. TF2 is known for its amount of active communities surrounding it, as I've illustrated on my video explaining why people play TF2 still. And seeing how almost every single sub-community is still pretty active is amazing. For example, trading is pretty vibrant, with the community still posting thousands of hats for trade, and trading servers still being filled for the most part. Let's talk more on active communities. Every single sub-community that I can think of is still as active as when the game launched. And how would you have all of this without a consistent player base? Which brings me to the next reason why TF2 is not dead yet: consistent players. TF2 is known for its very consistent player base, at which no point has the community seen a significant player drop since its release back in 2007. The only instance that I can think of where we saw a player drop was earlier this year, where we experienced a 10 to 20k peak player drop. But this is said to be because Valve stopped counting bots and anything like the sort. This isn't a definite, but this theory is backed up by evidence, of which I will post in the description below. Now, even though the average player count is lower than usual right now, that is still not enough to call TF2 dead, because there are still plenty of people playing, and the community outside of it is still pretty active and interacting to this day. It might not be like this forever, as the direction of the community is quite concerning for the future, and this is where the yet part comes in. So what do I mean by yet exactly? Well, there are multiple reasons to why I think TF2 could die in the nearest future. First reason being the YouTube scene is slowly dying out. YouTube is one of the main reasons to why TF2 is still as active as it is. So seeing the direction it's heading is worrisome, but is ultimately preventable. The first obvious thing people are noticing with the change of the TF2 YouTube landscape is the amount of people leaving it. Recently, more and more people have been quitting, which is making the community more worried. But this only makes the situation worse, as when they see someone quit, they keep others who have not yet more latched on and unable to do other forms of content, which makes those creators who have not quit yet want to more. Also, keeping them tied to TF2 won't even keep the game living longer, as the content they would put out would be bland and non-contributing. Why that is because there's just not as much to cover as there used to be. Not as many updates have been coming out, more and more subjects have been getting covered, and creativity is at an all-time low. So if creators are making content that they are not happy with, then what's the point of making it in the first place? So let me ask the question, would you rather watch a lot of repetitive, boring content or watch something new and entertaining? The second reason to why I think TF2 will possibly die out is the community, which kind of ties in with my first point, because the community's current general mindset with YouTubers will drive away more people and leave a sore representation of the community, which then ultimately would deter new people from possibly joining the game, which new players are incredibly important for the survival of this game, as another main factor of this game staying alive so long is when it went free to play. And what's the point of it being free to play if people are deterred from going to it in the first place? Another major gripe I have is how the community treats newer players. Countless times I've seen people screech at newer players in casual, expecting them to know what to do. This is not a good thing to be doing, as this is just another deterrent from people playing the game. Now, I don't think the TF2 community is terrible. In fact, I love this community, and that is why I am making these statements. But if everyone ignores these problems, it won't ever get fixed. And if these don't get fixed, it leaves TF2 a good chance to die out. Now, the last thing I think needs to be fixed is the evident gap between casual and competitive. Because if your game has little difference from casual and comp, it makes it easier for players to transition between the two. Why this is important is because it keeps the player base less separated and intrigues more people to try either mode. Games live longer if there is a thriving esports scene and a casual alternative because of the amount of variety of content and playstyles. Now, there are ways that we could close this gap. The first example being Uncle Dane's video on random crits. He perfectly explains why crits ruin the game in multiple different ways, and why it should be removed. I personally think that removing random crits would help close the gap, and not many people would be sad about its inexistence. In fact, a lot of people would probably be happy about the change, me included. Another change a lot of people would also be happy about is removing random bullet spread. I know a little bit of RNG is needed in every game, but it never makes sense in a skill-based game, especially in shooters. This only creates more frustration for the player base when they feel like their aim was dead on and they still somehow miss. I understand why random bullet spread is a thing, to prevent good players from being OP with certain weapons, but there's a clear better alternative to random bullet spread, a spray pattern. Spray patterns take practice and skill. Random bullet spread takes luck. Which one fits better in a skill-based game? You decide. Just any less differences always helps inching us closer to the ideal TF2. Now, I am not saying we should strip all of the differences between casual and competitive, because casual is the keystone for what makes TF2 TF2. But removing things that wouldn't make the experience worse, but even better, is something I am all for. Now, another evident gap that I notice is the community's perception of comp and Valve's perception of it. Until Valve recognizes and utilizes the community's version of comp, I don't see Valve creating any kind of sponsored tournament, which is pretty important if you want a thriving esports scene. You kinda need the company that made the game to support it. Sure, they make posts on the TF2 website about community-made tourneys, but until Valve takes it a step up and makes its own tournaments, I don't think we'll be seeing a thriving esports scene that we really need. If none of these issues are addressed within the next 4 years, in my mind, I think TF2 will die out. Well, not entirely, because in my opinion, this is a legacy game, but it would die enough so that it would finally fit my definition of a dead game. But hey, that wouldn't even be a shabby run, as that would be a 12 to 14 year span. Most games hope that they can stay alive past 5 years. Just the thought of 10 would be a miracle. But TF2 isn't dead right now, and we stand a chance to confront these issues and fix them. And as long as we do, I see TF2 living for a very long time. Hey, it didn't take me 2 months to upload this one. But anyways, if you disagreed with any of my points, I would like to see your view on the discussion in the comments below. Now, it's time for me to plug my media. Twitter, Discord, Steam. I post stuff on all of those, and it would be appreciated if you checked it out. But anyways, if you liked the video, make sure to like it and subscribe for more game-related content. As always, stay fresh, my Freshies. Peace.